My brother asked me to sign a small document, and a month later, I was called a fraud in all the newspapers. Please don't stop reading, because if I'd stopped when things seemed fine, I never would have seen the knife coming. What looked like a harmless favor from someone I trusted ended with my name in headlines, my life on trial, and a truth so twisted I almost didn't survive it. I'm Nate, 35 years old, male, and yeah, my name was on the front page of the goddamn New York Post next to the words, white-collar fraudster, me, a high school math teacher from Albany who's never even fudged his taxes, let alone masterminded some grand conspiracy. It all started with a barbecue. My older brother, Jason, 38, has always been the golden child. You know the type. Six-figure entrepreneur, expensive suits, personal trainer, espresso machine that costs more than my used Civic. He runs a real estate investment firm in Manhattan. At least that's what he always said. Something about mixed-use development opportunities and leveraging distressed assets. I'd nod along at holidays like I understood what the hell he was talking about. I used to admire Jason, or maybe I just wanted to. We weren't close growing up. He left for college when I was still in middle school, and after that, he only came home when it made him look good. But he had this gravitational pull. People believed him, followed him, trusted him. Even me, especially me. So when he invited me, my wife Lauren, 33 nurse, and our daughter Sadie, 7, to a 4th of July cookout at his new upstate property, I said yes without thinking. The place was a stunner. Massive house, modern glass architecture nestled in the Catskills, infinity pool and all. Jason said it was a flip project, something he was renovating to resell. It looked move-in ready to me, but what did I know? We ate burgers under string lights while Jason played perfect host. He made Sadie laugh with these stupid coin tricks he used to do when we were kids. For the first time in years, I let myself believe that maybe we were finally becoming real brothers again. That's when he brought it up. "Hey, quick thing," he said after dinner, like he was asking me to pass the salt. "I need a small favor." Lauren was inside helping with dishes, Sadie asleep in the guest room. Jason pulled out this thin manila envelope. "It's just a formality. Something for a financing package. My legal team screwed up the structure of one of the LLCs. You'd just be acting as a temporary trustee on paper for tax reasons." Totally legal. I remember laughing. "Jason, you could have told me that in English." He grinned. "It's nothing. Just sign, date, and initial here. I'll take care of the rest. You're not liable for anything. Just need your name on it because you're family. Trust me." And here's the thing. I did trust him, or I wanted to. I wanted to believe my big brother saw me as more than just the kid with student loans and a tiny house. I wanted to feel like I was finally in on something. So I signed. That night, lying next to Lauren in bed, I told her it was just some minor legal form Jason needed help with. She raised an eyebrow but didn't push. "I hope you read it," she said. I didn't. The next few weeks were normal. Too normal. Until my phone started blowing up during third period on a Monday. I was teaching algebra when the school secretary came in, pale and whispering. "Nate, there are reporters at the front desk. Channel 7. They say you've been indicted?" I didn't even understand the words at first. Indicted? For what? That's when my world imploded. And it all traced back to Jason. That small document I signed? It made me the CEO of a shell company used in a multi-million-dollar real estate fraud scheme. The cops showed up at my school before I even had time to call Lauren. Imagine that. Me, standing in a classroom full of 8th graders, still holding a dry erase marker, while two plainclothes detectives pull me out like I'm some kind of monster. I'll never forget the look on Emily Price's face. Sweetest kid in the class, braces and all. Her eyes went wide like I'd just kicked a puppy. They took me in for questioning. No cuffs, but no dignity either. I spent 4 hours in a beige room with flickering fluorescent lights, while some guy in a windbreaker asked me questions I couldn't answer. "Do you acknowledge that you are listed as the sole executive officer of Hudson River Holding Group, LLC? What is that?" I don't even know what that means. "You signed the incorporation documents filed with the state." I thought it was a tax thing. My brother said it was a tax thing. They didn't care. By the time they let me go, pending further investigation, I had 47 missed calls. Lauren, my school principal, my mom, my union representative, a few numbers I didn't even recognize. Lauren met me in the driveway when I got home. Her face looked like she'd aged 10 years in a day. "What the hell is happening, Nate?" I told her everything. About the signature, about Jason, about how stupid I'd been. She didn't yell. She didn't even speak for a long time, just stared at me like I'd become someone she didn't recognize. Finally, she said, "You dragged our family into his mess." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say I didn't know. But what could I say that would make any of it better? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw headlines. Local teacher at center of real estate fraud. Math teacher or master scammer. Brothers in crime. Family ties to millions in losses. The article ran in every major paper upstate. Apparently, Jason's little LLC had been a front for a massive mortgage fraud operation, fake renovations, inflated property values, phony tenants, laundered cash. And because I was the legal owner on record, I was the face of it. The next day, the school district suspended me with pay while they conducted their own investigation. Some parents started a petition to have me fired. Others left voicemails saying they believed me. But those got drowned out by the hate. My neighbor, who used to wave every morning, now crossed the street when I walked outside. Someone egged our house. Someone else left a printout of the article in our mailbox with "scumbag" scrawled in red Sharpie across the headline. Sadie asked me why people on the street were pointing at Daddy. I told her it was a misunderstanding. She said, "Like when I get blamed for stuff Connor does?" And my heart broke in half. But the worst part? Jason stopped answering my calls. He ghosted me. After dragging me into this hurricane of lies, after convincing me to sign something I didn't understand, he disappeared. No calls, no texts, nothing. That's when I started getting really angry. Not just scared or ashamed, furious. Because Jason didn't just ruin my life. He used me, like I was a pawn, like I was disposable. And if he thought he could get away with that, he had no idea who he was messing with. I spent 3 straight days obsessing, not sleeping, not eating, just sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by crumpled papers, screenshots, and a legal pad full of Jason's past ventures. Every LLC he'd ever name-dropped at a family party, every cryptic post from his LinkedIn, every photo I could find of his little business trips. I was trying to build a timeline, trying to understand how deep this went. Lauren barely looked at me. She'd moved into the guest room. Sadie was still too young to grasp the scope of it, thank God. But I saw the way she flinched when the doorbell rang or asked why I wasn't going to school anymore. That kind of confusion sticks with a kid. I knew. I remembered what it was like growing up in the shadow of Jason's chaos, and I realized something that made my stomach turn. This wasn't the first time he'd done something shady. It was just the first time someone else had taken the fall. When we were teenagers, Jason used to steal gas with a siphon and sell it to his friends at half price. He once borrowed our neighbor's lawnmower to help mow their yard, then flipped it on Craigslist and claimed it was stolen. My parents thought it was resourceful. "That kid's gonna be a CEO someday," my dad said once with pride. He was right, just not the kind of CEO you want your kid to become. But this time, Jason didn't just con some strangers. He conned me, his own brother. I finally got through to one of his old friends from college, Phil, who ran in similar finance circles. Phil sounded nervous as hell the second I mentioned Jason's name. "Look, man," he said, "you didn't hear this from me, but Jason's been pulling shady crap for years. He just knew how to skate around liability. Dummy core, offshore money, crypto laundering through shell buyers. I stopped talking to him after he used my name on a timeshare scam." My throat went dry. "He what?" Phil sighed. "Dude, I told him no. Next thing I know, my signature's on 3 deeds in Arizona. Took me a year to clear it. That was it." I hung up and threw my chair against the wall so hard it split. Jason had a pattern. He didn't ask for favors. He borrowed your name like it was a damn library book. And when the fire started, he left you inside. But I wasn't going to sit here and let him win. If Jason wanted a fall guy, he picked the wrong brother, because I had something he didn't. Receipts? Buried in my inbox was the original email he sent me about that small favor. I found it after hours of digging. One clean thread with his exact wording. Totally harmless, just acting as a placeholder for my tax team. "You're not liable for anything." Those words? They mattered. They meant something. They were proof that he misled me. I forwarded that email to a lawyer my union rep connected me with. Her name was Dana Shu, and she was the first person who didn't look at me like I was a con man. She read the email, leaned back and said, "If what you're saying is true, we might have something. But it won't be easy. You're going to have to fight fire with fire." And for the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't panic or shame. I felt ready, because Jason wanted a patsy, but I was about to become his reckoning. Dana got to work immediately. Subpoenas, discovery filings, a mountain of paperwork that made my head spin. But she wasn't just trying to clear my name. She was building a case against him, Jason. Meanwhile, I had to live in the wreckage. My job was still under review, which is corporate speak for "we're waiting to see if you're a liability." My neighbors treated me like I was radioactive. Sadie's friends' parents stopped replying to playdate texts. One mom actually messaged Lauren saying she was uncomfortable letting her kids spend time at our home right now. Like white-collar crime is contagious. Like I was going to teach her 7-year-old how to launder money with finger paint. Lauren was cold. Not cruel, not yelling, but distant in that terrifying way where you know someone's already halfway out the door emotionally. I'd find her in the kitchen late at night, sipping wine in the dark, scrolling on her phone. She didn't say much anymore, but the silence said plenty. Then the second bomb hit. The New York Daily News ran a follow-up, this time with photos. surveillance stills from one of Jason's properties. It showed me, walking into a building, clipboard in hand, looking like some mid-level project manager. The caption? Nate Callahan, registered executive of HRHG, captured inspecting site of fraudulent valuation. My heart stopped. I remembered that day. Jason had asked me to swing by and take a few pictures of a duplex in Yonkers for insurance stuff. Said his guy couldn't make it, gave me the address and a clipboard and said to look official, just in case. I'd even joked, "What am I? Your intern now." He laughed. "You've got the face for it, man. You look trustworthy." Trustworthy. Right? Like a goddamn piñata full of liability. Now the press had a narrative, and it was too good to resist. Mild-mannered math teacher turned criminal mastermind, fronting for a multi-million-dollar scam. My inbox flooded. Hate mail. Death threats. One guy sent me a photo of a jail jumpsuit and wrote, "Hope they got your size." But the worst wasn't strangers. It was my dad. He called me that night. I hadn't heard from him in years. Divorced from our mom, lives in Florida with a woman who drinks margaritas out of novelty glasses shaped like flamingos. His voice was flat. "What did you do, Nate?" I choked. "Dad, I didn't do anything. It was Jason. He used me. You always were the gullible one," he said, cutting me off. "You know your brother's a shark, and you just handed him your neck. I trusted him. He's family. He's Jason. You think that means something?" Click. That broke something in me. Some tiny, naive part that still wanted to believe blood was thicker than betrayal. That night, I walked into the guest room where Lauren was folding laundry and said, "I'm going to ruin him." She looked up, tired, empty. "You better." So I did, because I had Dana. I had the emails. And what Jason didn't know was that I also had something else. A folder. One I'd found on an old USB in the back of our parents' junk drawer last Christmas. It was labeled TAXDOCS 2017. Inside, a goldmine. Invoices. Correspondence. Early business plans with Jason's name and signature all over them. Some with addresses that didn't even exist. He'd been doing this a lot longer than anyone knew. And that's when Dana said something that made me dizzy with hope. "This isn't just fraud, Nate. If we play this right, this is federal." Update. Okay. Holy hell. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. I thought maybe a few people would read, offer some advice, maybe tell me I wasn't insane. But the DMS, the comments, the messages from strangers saying, "My sibling did the same thing?" I've been reading them in bed with one hand gripping my phone like a lifeline. So thank you. Seriously. But let's get to it. Because some of y'all said, lawyer up and torch him. And, that's exactly what I did. So here's what's happened since I last posted. First off, Dana, my lawyer, is a machine. She pulled together the email thread, the photos from the Yonkers property, and that dusty USB folder like she was assembling the Avengers. Turns out, the tax documents from 2017 included a whole network of fake renovation expenses. You know what's extra ironic? Jason had been using my address, my actual home address, as a billing location for one of the Shell LLCs. That's how bold he was, how little he thought I'd ever check. But the real turning point came from a commenter who messaged me about looking into FOIA requests tied to HUD loans and property flipping. I mentioned it to Dana, and she went nuts. Apparently, some of Jason's properties were federally subsidized, and faking tenant income on federal housing forms? That's a whole different ballgame. That's prison time. Real prison. So Dana drafted a detailed complaint, walked it over to the state AG's office, and, get this, they took the case. Like, officially. As in, a whole white-collar crimes unit is now involved. They called me in for a second deposition, and this time the tone was different. Not accusatory. Curious. Almost grateful. One of the investigators even said, "We've been circling this guy for a while. You might have just cracked it open." Now here's where it gets messy, because Jason finally broke silence. Yesterday, he showed up at my house. I was outside raking leaves because yard work is therapy when your life's on fire. And suddenly there's his black Range Rover creeping up my street like a shark in a kiddie pool. He got out, all sunglasses and fake calm. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. Just stood there with the rake like it might be useful as a weapon. He actually had the audacity to smile. "Look, I know things got complicated, but we're family. I can make this go away. You just have to stop whatever you're doing." I laughed. Like, full body laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. "You used me," I said. "You hung me out to dry. You think I'm just gonna roll over now?" His smile cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said, suddenly desperate. "It was temporary, Nate. I just needed a name. I didn't think they'd investigate you. You weren't supposed to get hurt." That broke me. "Wasn't supposed to," I whispered, "but you let it happen anyway." Then I told him I had the emails, the documents, the USB, and that I'd already handed it all to the feds. Jason went white, like literal ghost-level pale. Then he exploded. "You think they'll believe you? You're a math teacher. You don't know how this works. I can bury you in court, Nate. Don't be stupid." Then he stormed off, knocking over a flower pot on the way, like a toddler having a tantrum, screeched away down my street. So yeah, that's where we are now. Jason knows I'm coming. And the mask? It's off. He doesn't see me as a brother anymore, which is perfect, because I don't see him as one either. I never wanted revenge to be my thing. I'm not that guy. I'm a school teacher. I grade geometry quizzes. I bring apples for lunch. But something changes when the person who shared your childhood weaponizes your name, your face, your entire life, and then has the balls to show up in your yard and threaten you. So yeah, something snapped. Dana and I shifted gears. Now we weren't just cooperating. We were hunting. Every scrap of Jason's empire that had my signature, my address, or my face was dug up and cataloged. I went full forensic mode. Highlighter, spreadsheet, sticky notes. At one point, I had a corkboard in the living room like I was in a damn crime drama. Lauren walked in and just said, "Good." She hadn't said more than 10 words to me in a week. But now she looked at the chaos of receipts and deeds and manila folders and said, "Don't stop." And I didn't. Because here's the thing. Jason was flashy. He loved attention, loved the press, the awards, the carefully curated LinkedIn posts about giving back. He'd been invited to speak at an entrepreneurship panel in Midtown. Dana found the invite online. That's when the idea hit. I was going to ruin him in the most public, poetic, irreversible way possible. 2 weeks later, I walked into that panel, wore a suit, sat in the second row, waited until Jason got on stage with his fake polished smile and his TED Talk voice. "In business, transparency is everything," he said. "Integrity builds trust." The audience laughed. Polite chuckles. I stood up. "I agree," I said, loud and clear. Jason's face dropped like he'd seen a ghost. I walked to the front with a stack of papers. Certified copies, bank statements, LLC documents, screen grabs. The 2017 tax folder. I turned to the crowd. "This man used my name to commit mortgage fraud. I have the email where he asked me to sign, promising I wouldn't be liable. I have proof he listed me as the CEO of a fake company while he siphoned money out of federally subsidized housing." Gasps. Jason stammered. He's mentally unwell. This isn't security." A couple people started recording. One guy live-streamed the whole thing on Instagram. "I have already handed this to the New York State Attorney General," I continued, "and the White Collar Crimes Unit. So if any of you are thinking about investing with Jason Callahan, I'd suggest you Google me first." Then I turned and walked out. Just like that. The next morning, it was my name on the front page again, but this time, "Whistleblower Brother Exposes Real Estate Mogul's Criminal Empire." That photo of Jason standing frozen behind a podium while I held a folder full of truth went viral. And best of all, Dana called me 48 hours later. The AG's office just filed formal charges. Jason Callahan, wire fraud, conspiracy, tax evasion, use of false documents in a federal program. His bail? Denied. The silence didn't last. Less than 3 days after Jason's arrest, I got a knock on the door at 6:42 a.m. Not cops. Worse, reporters. Local news vans had staked out my lawn like they were waiting for Bigfoot to show up in a cardigan. One guy stuck a mic in my face before I could finish my coffee and asked, "Do you think your brother is guilty?" I laughed, dead in the eyes. Number I know he is. That clip aired on 5 different channels. I thought it'd feel good, like closure. But when I walked back inside, Sadie was crying in Lauren's arms. "Why do people keep saying your name on TV, Daddy?" I broke. Right there in the hallway, I felt the weight of all of it collapse on me. The job I still hadn't gotten back. The mortgage. The death threats. The way Lauren still slept facing the wall. I wanted Jason in prison, but now it felt like he'd taken our whole damn life with him. That night, Lauren finally spoke. Really spoke. "I miss the way we used to laugh." I looked at her. "I miss you," she nodded. "Then fix this. Not for him, not for court. For us." I wanted to, but Jason wasn't done. Because from behind bars, he started leaking. Someone, his lawyer maybe some PR stooge, was feeding tabloids old photos, texts, stories twisted just enough to paint me as a bitter brother who turned on family for clout. Suddenly, I wasn't just the whistleblower. I was the backstabber. One story said I'd always been jealous, that I was lazy, a failed teacher looking for attention. Another piece quoted a former friend, claiming I tried to blackmail Jason for a cut of the profits. All lies. But they worked. My school board called an emergency meeting. They didn't fire me, technically, but my contract wasn't renewed. My principal, who once told me I was the kind of teacher kids never forgot, wouldn't even look me in the eye. I lost my job, my name, my sense of self. And Jason, he was getting sympathy. Not from the courts. No, he was still facing charges on all counts. But the internet, the influencers, the right podcast clip in the wrong hands, and suddenly Jason was a misunderstood genius with a greedy brother trying to ruin his vision. I was boiling. So I called Dana and said, "No more defense. I want to go on offense," because I still had one last card to play. Something Jason never expected me to find. A voicemail. One I hadn't even realized was saved until I was digging through my old phone backups. Dated 6 months before any of this exploded. A voicemail from Jason, drunk off his ass, bragging to someone about how he used Nate's name again. Sucker doesn't even read past the signature line. Clear. Recorded. Time-stamped. We had proof of intent. Dana's voice shook when I played it. This is the nail in the coffin. So we handed it over. And this time, the prosecution didn't just add it to their case. They built the closing argument around it. Update 2. So, it's over. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath for 6 months until the jury foreman said the word, guilty. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I just sat there, numb, watching Jason, the same brother who used to sneak me Pop-Tarts when mom was on a health kick, go stiff like someone unplugged him. 6 counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy, falsifying federal documents, tax evasion, and 2 counts of aggravated identity theft. The sentence hearing is in a few weeks, but the prosecutor said it's likely 10 to 15 years. Jason's lawyer didn't even fight that hard by the end. Once that voicemail got played in court, the vibe shifted like someone dropped a dead animal in the room. It wasn't just what he said, it was how casual he sounded, like I was some extra in the movie of his life. Nate'll sign whatever. That's the beauty of family. Built-in cover. I'll never forget the way the jury looked at him after that, like they were embarrassed for ever believing he wore a suit because he was trustworthy. But let's talk fallout. Because wow. A few of you asked if Lauren and I were okay. The short answer? We're working on it. After the verdict, she grabbed my hand in the hallway outside the courtroom and didn't let go. That might not sound like much, but after months of cold shoulders and sleeping back to back, it meant everything. She told me she finally started therapy. I told her I'd been going for a month without telling anyone because I didn't want to look weak. Sadie drew a picture last week of all 3 of us smiling in front of a house, said it was our second first family. That wrecked me. In the best way. Now, about the internet. After the trial, some of the same podcasts that roasted me did a full 180. There was an entire Twitter thread titled How Nate Callahan Got Screwed and then Unscrewed the System. Even CNN ran a segment on whistleblowers and featured my story. Some guy on Reddit said I was the math teacher version of John Wick. That one made me laugh so hard I actually cried. I needed that. Oh, and remember that job I lost? I got a call from a private charter school last week. Said they followed the case and admired how I handled everything. Said they wanted a teacher who'd stand up when things go to hell. I start next month. The pay's better, the commute's shorter, and they gave me a classroom with windows. Now, Jason? He hasn't spoken to me. No apology, no letter, nothing. His lawyer said he still blames me for making it personal. But here's the thing. It was personal. He didn't just steal my identity. He stole my peace, my trust, my ability to believe that family meant safety, and now he's finally paying for it. Some of y'all said I should have burned his house down, gone full revenge fantasy. But here's the truth. Nothing I could have done to him would be worse than what he did to himself. All I had to do was tell the truth and let it bury him. It had been a quiet 2 weeks after the trial. No reporters, no lawyers, just me trying to remember what normal looked like. I thought the chaos was over. Then I got a call from my mother. We hadn't spoken in months, not since the early days of the scandal when she told me I was blowing things out of proportion and that Jason's just going through a rough patch. She'd always had a soft spot for him, even when he was lying. Even when he was stealing, especially when he was getting caught. So when I saw her name on my phone, I almost didn't pick up. But I did. "Hi, Nate," she said. Her voice was thinner than I remembered. I didn't respond. She trailed off. "I went to see him, at Rikers." Of course she did. "He looks terrible. Said the food's awful. Said the guards treat him like an animal." I took a breath, tried to keep my voice even. "He's in jail for committing federal crimes." What did he expect? Room service? She went quiet for a second. Then she said the words I never thought I'd hear come out of her mouth. "You were right." I froze. She kept going. "I should have believed you. All those years. Every time he got into trouble, I cleaned it up. And when you tried to stop it, I told you to stop making waves. I see that now." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, still stunned. "Because he asked me to convince you to retract your statement. Said you owe it to the family to fix what you broke." Her voice broke on the last word. I told him no, that I wouldn't ask that of you. That landed like a punch. My mom, who once yelled at me for tattling when Jason stole our neighbor's bike, finally said no to him. "Why the change of heart?" I asked, genuinely confused. She didn't answer for a while. Then, quietly, "Because you're the only one who ever tried to tell the truth, Nate, even when it hurt, and I don't want to lose you too." We talked for another hour, about old memories, about how blind she'd been, about Sadie's drawing, which I sent her after the trial. She cried when she saw it, said she'd been a terrible grandmother. I told her it wasn't too late, because I meant it. Closure isn't one big moment. It's 1,000 tiny ones. A late-night call, an unexpected apology, a laugh over coffee, the feel of your daughter's arms wrapped around your waist when she whispers, "I'm glad you're not on TV anymore." Jason's still in jail, but my family? We're starting to rebuild, not because of him, but in spite of him. 3 weeks after the verdict, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, no postmark. Inside was a photo. It was taken at our parents' house, sometime in the mid-90s. I'm maybe 7. Jason's 10. We're standing in the backyard, both grinning like idiots, faces smeared with chocolate cake. He's got his arm slung around me and I'm holding a water balloon behind my back like I'm about to soak him. On the back of the photo, in Jason's handwriting, "Sorry I broke this." No signature, no explanation, just that. I stared at it for a long time, sat down at the kitchen table, held it like it might burn a hole through my fingers. The bastard had snuck something human into the wreckage, and I hated how badly I wanted it to be real. But I knew Jason. This wasn't remorse. It was strategy. It was bait. One last manipulative olive branch, sent just vague enough to soften the blow, but not clear enough to admit guilt. Not enough to absolve anything. Still, I kept the photo. Not because I forgave him, but because that kid in the picture, he didn't know who he was going to become. Neither did I. And maybe that's the cruelest part. Jason wasn't always a villain. He was just a boy with cake on his face and too much charm in his pockets. Somewhere along the line, the charm curdled into something rotten, and I stopped being his brother and became his shield, then his weapon, then his casualty. Not anymore, because this is what he didn't see coming. I took my story public, not just to clear my name, but to teach. I gave a TEDx talk, titled it, "When Trust Becomes a Weapon, Lessons from a Paper Trail." It went viral. Schools invited me to speak about ethics. Students sent letters saying it helped them recognize red flags in their own families. One kid wrote, "I always thought loyalty meant saying yes. You taught me it sometimes means saying no." I got my job back. Not at my old school, but better. Better hours, better pay, better support. And on the first day of class, one of my new students, a nervous freshman with a shaky voice, asked why I looked familiar. I smiled. "Because I used to be the guy everyone thought was guilty." He blinked. "Were you?" "No," I said, "but I was naive, and that almost cost me everything." There was a beat of silence. Then he asked, "Did you get justice?" And I looked him right in the eye and said, "I got truth. That's better."